it's research base. And my job is to commercialise the research that comes out of that, so direction of commercialisation. And that's largely creating companies, creating new companies. These are a very particular model around creating companies. In fact, it's creating more PLCs than any other university in the country, which I still sort of find hard to get my head around. So it's been very successful at that model. But there's a kind of certain constraints on that model, I think. So when I arrived at Leeds, we started toying with this notion of KT 2.0, which was using a more collaborative, more sort of open process in terms of sort of exploitation of intellectual property. And it was really that led to this particular project. And I've spoken at length on what I call KT 2.0. I touched on it in session earlier today, and sort of elaborated a number of principles that we thought was, this is what makes knowledge transfer 2.0 different from the old way that commercialisation was done. And much of that was around using social media, so it's very natural to get involved with Jisc and get launch this project, which Paul has helped me on. But there were kind of risks associated with that as well, because the model had kind of worked. It's a successful model. And if if a boy from Derby turns up in Leeds and starts messing with the model, sometimes things can go wrong. So I kind of had those antibodies. This is not actually Brian Clough, Michael Sheen playing Brian Clough, but if people know the story, he had a very disastrous stint at another illustrious Leeds institution. So, but I've kind of introduced him. Paul's accused me of being obsessed with Brian Clough, but I've introduced him because there's sort of other aspects of his management style that I think are kind of relevant to this. So we embarked on trying to change or modify or open up new routes to commercialisation at the university. Build on the best of what we've got and not lose any of that. So I take you to, not to 1974, but to 2008, March 2008, which is when I joined the University of Leeds, expected to produce great things. Certain things started unravelling, which I wasn't fully aware of, or didn't really appreciate the impact that it would have at the time. And the first of those, if that's not legible, my parents invested in Bear Stearns and all they've got to show for it is this lousy t-shirt. Because that was the very week that I joined the university that Bear Stearns, the first of the banks to hit dust. And obviously people were fearful of moral panic being introduced by bailing the university that bailed the banks out. So they let that bank and a number of the banks go down before stepping in. And from that we saw the unravelling of the sort of economic certainties that we were all kind of used to. And that had a very immediate impact on the job that we do. I think perhaps more immediate than many other jobs, because what we're trying to do is find funding, equity funding, capital funding to introduce into companies to make things happen. That's never been easy. The sort of funding trajectory for that has been on decline. But you can see from March 2008 that really started to take a very serious decline. And in particular, this seed funding, the sort of second round of funding that we're dependent on to make things happen. I mentioned the sort of PLC portfolio that we have. Well, we use typically markets like AIM, and that was closed for 2 years. It was very difficult. The venture capitalists were very concerned, very much more conservative as to where they were going to put their money. That was a double whammy for us. The first thing was the capital markets were locked down, very difficult to get anything to float on the stock market. But as the funding crisis and the impact on the budget deficit came through, obviously universities, as well as many other public organisations, started to take in the neck in terms of funding. So we've had to shed staff, we've had to shed, and it's a very small kind of team at Leeds. One of the things about Leeds is that to manage to do all of this with a proportionately small team. So that was my worry, that things were going to come to a sticky end. My stint at Leeds was going to be very short, not very successful. But we brought to kind of the strategy at Leeds a series of things, a series of principles we've been thinking about already, and these are the ones that we knew. What I want to do is concentrate on some of the stuff later that we didn't know, and then I'll kind of come back to whether it worked and some of the performance indicators. The first starting point, this is really why the Jisc project was important for us, was that we just knew somewhere in the middle of this massive research base, lots of technology, very few people being able to kind of do anything with it. Social media fitted in there somewhere, and everybody gets that. The question is, how does it fit? What are the principles? How do you make it work? And what's the business model? But we were already thinking about that, and that sort of features in the knowledge transfer 2.0 kind of paradigm. We'd already been thinking about open innovation, sort of Henry Chesbrough notion that, in particular, not all the smart people work for you. And you can see where this fits into social media. You're trying to tap into skill sets that other people have and that you don't have. And you realise that actually you don't have to recruit all those people. You don't have to have them on your payroll. Then this open innovation division label becomes very attractive. So we started working with that and had some success around that. And we'd also been very influenced by sort of Ron Burt, big sort of fanboy of Professor Ron Burt from Chicago, and this notion that the more connected you are, and social networks kind of make that more open and allow you to network with more people, the better you perform. And he's very rigorous in his research, and there's lots of empirical evidence that shows that you get rated more highly in their reviews, that their organisations perform better, people assess their ideas better, they get paid better, all those sorts of things. And so again, it made sense to try and engender a more open approach to knowledge transfer and work with people external to the organisation. So we kind of understood all of that, and it helped us to weather some of the storm. But there were certain other things that I don't think we fully appreciated as well. And in fact, some of the thinking that we'd had prior to that was just as wide. I was sort of looking back on it now, flat earth kind of variety of thinking, just realised that was wrong. One of them I've alluded to already, which is that markets are always rational, and that we'd eliminated the central problem of markets crashing. And even people like Alan Greenspan, had to read their words for 40 years, and were visibly shocked at the fact that sort of naked self-interest and the market don't always work. So that was fallacy number one that we had to pick. Fallacy number two, and I think this is really important for me in terms of how you utilise social media and how you get the real benefit from it, is that actually people are always economically rational. They're not nakedly self-interested, and that's not what motivates them. And we've always believed that. That's sort of been the economic model. That's how people behave. That's how they're motivated. And that's what conditions them as to whether they collaborate or not. And that's just wrong as well. That just doesn't make sense. And that's based on quite a lot of empirical evidence, much of which has been popularised by people like Dan. People who've read this, and Daniel King. I don't know if people see that sort of drive video that's circulating around the web. But all of this kind of starts to expose that second fallacy that people will only operate and collaborate in the context of self-interest. And then the third fallacy, which starts to become more obvious, because we were already kind of getting there, was that large organisations are the only way to make large and complex things happen. Because that used to be the case, that had validity and was true. Large, complex organisations, Fordist type organisations, line managers and hierarchies were the way of making things happen. But that ain't true. And that has a bearing on everything we do. It has a bearing on complex propositions like knowledge transfer, technology transfer. So that was wrong. And it's only if you kind of ingest that and realise that all of those are wrong, the markets aren't always rational, people aren't always motivated by the economically rational thing for them to do, and that organisations are the only way of getting complex projects done, that you can make sense of what happened to this thing in Carter. It had all of that. It had Microsoft behind it, all the capital, all the expertise, very well positioned. And if we'd gone back to 96 and said, I tell you what would you bet your money on? This crowd, or this bunch of kind of weirdos sort of creating this. And I think I had a debate around the time with certain people who just wouldn't accept this as a valid form of kind of way of pulling knowledge together. Now, Encarta doesn't exist anymore. It's dead. Wikipedia is the largest encyclopedia, and that's been done entirely on kind of collaborative, intrinsically motivated activity. People not being paid to do it because they're interested in it. And that's kind of points to this reality. I like to quote from Clay Shirky, who's one of the kind of thinkers around this that I like, which is that people are actually motivated by very different drivers. They're motivated by wanting to be autonomous, autonomy. That's what makes people happy in their jobs. They want to feel competent and they want to feel connected. And there's a bit of a conflict almost sometimes between being connected and being autonomous. And so we've struggled to utilise that in a working environment because we didn't have the tools to do it before. It's just that we do have the tools to do that now, and it looks like sort of social media tools that we've all been collectively sharing and talking about today, and then those drives can start to work. So, for me, the whole thing really has been about how do we get a combination, how do we get the best of both worlds between that institution as an enabler. When I was talking in the session earlier, how do you create an environment, an ecosystem in a university where you can pull people in and get them to work on common problems, but you do it in the context of an enabler, as a network as an enabler. You don't have to come and work for you, you don't have to sit in your organisation, don't have to be paid by you. And you can therefore tap into not just extrinsic goals, getting paid, people getting bonuses, but you can start to tap into what people enjoy doing, the fact that they want to be autonomous, they want to build competence, sort of things that have driven people to build Wikipedia. So that led to this kind of, and it seemed a bit crazy, I think, at the time. What if we could re-engineer the whole knowledge transfer process and take some of the learnings from Wikipedia, which is what if we could build a virtual organisation? So I don't have to fight for extra resource. I can kind of weather this economic storm, which is probably going to get worse with the current staff that I've got. If I can create a manure of people around me that just want to work with us on and off when they want to in an autonomous way, and we can utilise them with the best skill sets that they have. We don't have to pay them when we don't need them around. What if we could incent them through a combination of different incentives? A little bit of consultancy, a bit of pay, we've got to pay the mortgage, a bit of equity, a bit of upside. We can do that. It's very easy for us. We're creating companies, we can give away slices of the company which cost us nothing, but could be very valuable in the future, bits of royalty. But also that intrinsic motivation that people want to be involved in interesting, exciting projects, which is largely what the university puts out, very sort of interesting, exciting technologies. And then what if we could kind of deal with the fact that there's an army of different people creating a much more complex environment, lots of transaction costs. We can kind of manage that and suppress that using social media. And that's what we try to do. And that was kind of the project I was talking about earlier, this open innovation social visual label. The Leeds Innovation Network, that's effectively what we're trying to do. Now up to that, I'm conscious that all of this may sound a bit utopian, as kind of virtual organisation, people working because they love it, so on and so forth. So I thought in the next sort of slice of what I said, I thought, well, I'll just go back to very kind of naked, you have to bear with me some kind of dull graphs, but if I'm going to kind of throw this sort of level of utopian thinking at you, I thought I'd better back it up with some return on investment.